How is everybody today? I am really happy to be here. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the work. So much has happened. Oh my gosh. So let's just jump right into it, shall we? I hope you enjoyed that short version video I posted on Friday. I'm going to try and do more of those just as I'm kind of having like an aha or working through a concept. Maybe it's interesting for people to, kind of see me do that and see how this process of, formulation of your own thoughts of the landscape of your understanding is actually accomplished, right? And maybe it would be helpful to see how we can work through, I call it mathematically, but it's clearly not numbers. But to me, the way it breaks down is very similar to math, right? Because we're talking about polarity. We're talking about energy. We're talking about breaking things down in terms of what it is and what it is not in order to best understand what's next. Got it? I fully understand that there are probably some people who are watching me going, you are crazy. And you would not get an argument from me. Trust me, I understand who I am to this world. So anyhow, today's topic, red flags. I say that with a smile, red flags, right? Because that's kind of where we are in the work. In that red flags are something that happens internally, right? When something's happening or going off, right? It sends up a red flag. Ding, ding, ding. Better pay attention to this. Oh, hey, this is painful. Oh, hey, there might be learning here, right? And so I look at red flags and say red flags with a smile on my face because of how I kind of welcome them and look forward to them in my life. What? Who says that? Red flags as a good thing. Can you imagine? Right? Because every time one of those red flags goes up, there's a reason for that. And I think that in spirituality, we try and neuter out the negative, that we shouldn't feel negative, that we should always be light and bubbly and positive and up and upbeat, and I'm gonna smack you. I don't do well with the perky. Right? And so, spiritual people often kind of get looped into that, lobotomized brain set where everyone's just kind of like, oh, happy all the time, and like their, emotional maturity and the bandwidth of their experience is like this wide, right? Because they're just always, up in the ethers and experiencing, happy thoughts and joy. They've neutered out the negative. Well, everything serves a purpose, right? It would be like trying to train yourself to hold your hand on the stove while the gas is lit in order to try and root out something that is considered negative or painful, right? We're not trying to remove those things from our lives. We're trying to understand their purpose. Take your hand off the stove. It's burning. Oh, is that what that means? Right? These things, negative things, red flags, they serve a purpose. Right? So to try and remove that experience, to extricate the negative or painful from our lives, at least where we are in the work right now, would be counterproductive. That would not be in our highest and best interest. Right? Because when we're hurting ourselves and there's pain there, that's something we need to pay attention to. right? That's the welcome sign. That's the light going on that, oh, class is in session. Right? So it's reframing those things in our lives to find its purpose. To find its purpose. It's like what we did with frustration. Remember that we were able to actually assign frustration a purpose so that when it showed up in our lives, we knew what to do. It became a positive thing in our lives to know when we've done our work and that it's time to take a break. Right? That type of messaging from the universe is a good thing. Right? Because if you don't listen to that, we saw what happens when you don't and you just keep grasping and trying to make it happen and push the river on your own, run by self-will, with absolutely nothing in conjunction or in concert with the universe. Things don't go well when you run on self-will like that. So to understand the purpose of frustration suddenly becomes a beautiful thing in our life, because it's the message that, child, you have done your work, step off the gas, go for a drink. Right? So it's not like I try and bar frustration from my life, but I just try and listen to its message. Same is true for all negative things in our life. They are not negative. We have just prescribed a negative thing to it. Right? Pain is not a negative thing inherent of its own, characteristics. It is just information that happens to get delivered in a way to get your attention, right? That something needs to change, right? That your hand is burning, pick it up. Oh. That's where the learning is. Right there. Right at the red flags. Right at the pain. Right? And I'm not saying that that isn't going to change and evolve, and that I won't, become one of those lobotomized spiritual people who just sits around in a daze in the corner, and is just bubbly and happy and experiencing the joy of the universe. I'm not saying I won't become that person. I'm going to hold the space for that to be true. Because as witnessed on Friday, right? I see the, goal, right? The goal is clearly there. And what we've been talking about is the only mandate from the universe is joy. Well, every time I try and challenge that notion by breaking it down, again, mathematically in my head, I know it's not mathematically, but breaking it down in terms of, polarity and energy work, right? So, I just lost my train of thought. That's never happened before. Shoot, what was I talking about? So when we try and break, painful things down to understand it by its simplest form, right? And we understand that pain serves a purpose, and that all we have to do is get a little more curious about, oh, ding, 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 what's this little bit of fear? Because it's never pain, it's actually fear, right? Because, again, when you break it down, you only get to, that's what I was saying, you only get to the one take wonder has looped himself back around. We just keep on trucking. Stay with us. Sorry. Because when you break things down to its simplest form, you only ever arrive at one place. Doesn't matter how you do it. Doesn't matter what mathematical equation you take. to look at and to break down to its simplest form and remove all the crap and the bullshit, right? You only ever get down to one thing. And that everything is either love or a cry for love. That's all you ever get to. Because that's all there is, right? And that's why this work doesn't scare me in any way, whether it's done by me or by others who are on their path, searching for the same thing on the same mountain, all heading in the same direction. There is only one answer. Because there is only one thing, or quite frankly, right? And it's that this is all an expression of the divine and love. And I know in the matrix in which we live, in which our televisions speak from, in a very left brain world that we all have associated with, it can seem like that's untrue, or that's far from where you are to what you're experiencing and how you're experiencing the planet. I get that those two things may seem like they are at a great distance. They are not. It is only a matter of perception. Evolution work, what we're doing here, evolving as a human and as a spirit, evolution work, right? It is the process of clearer thinking, of conscious thinking, of being critical and being open to what is, right? I had an interesting experience yesterday in that I got a chance to go to the Los Angeles book fair as hosted by that woman that I've been speaking to at the LA Times. So I had the opportunity to go and meet her. Very cool lady. Love, love, love her. She's like one of those people you just kind of instantly connect with, right? And she's so lovely and warm and open, and she gave me a couple free books that I'm super excited about. I got a chance to meet a few authors, and she was hosting the poetry readings on the poetry stage. And so I sat there for, better part of an hour listening to different poets read their work. As an aspiring author myself, I was like, okay, I'm going to go there and hang out in that world, right? Because a huge part of success is proximity. So go and hang out in that world. Go feel that world. Go see how you resonate and vibe in that world. So I sat there and listened to a whole bunch of voices reading their poetry and explaining who they are as poets, as beings, as, entities on planet Earth in 2022. So I'm like receiving this information, right? And I'm checking the kind of like energy signature of their work. Maybe that's a weird thing to do. Sorry. But that's how I'm looking at it in terms of, okay, how deftly are these people hammering home what I look for in terms of good work and good literature? Where are they in terms of art? In terms of personal expression and what I consider to be high art, good art, studied art that balances itself between beauty and principle. So one of the poets got up there and she resonated with an energy signature of, this is my pain. Look at it. She was very forcible in her point of view in making us, the audience, hear about her justified pain. And a part of me was like, oh, that's what that looks like? Right? Remember when I talked about that this work will often leave you shamefaced for who you've been in the world? So there was a little bit that register of, oh, I've done that. Oh, I've been her. Oh, I have sat in the seat of my justified anger and the crap that I've had to live through, and I need you to look at it. I mean, the things that she was saying in her poem were very uncomfortable. And as a person, so dystonia for me has, because it's in the tick family, right? Like dystonia is a part of like the tick world. And as a person with dystonia who gets into heightened emotional states, I start to tick more easily. And so this woman is talking about her situation. And I'm like, gay boy in the third row who can't sit still. But I had to look at that. I had to take that discomfort that she was, leveling onto the audience members there in order for her to scratch a certain itch, in order for her to do her thing. Right? Which is all very based in justified anger. That was her energy signature of her work. She then followed it up saying about how messed up, and how unfair her, childhood was and things that, and I was just like, oh my God. There for the grace of God go I. There for the grace of God go I. So, it called out even further what I've already been addressing slightly in here in terms of what I'm sending downstream. Do I want to be that woman who talks about her justified anger and her whole deal is getting people to forcibly look at her justified anger? It's so tricky, isn't it? Because we all have justified anger, right? But what do we do with it? Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. It's in understanding what's in ya and how it's living in ya, right? Because all of these negative things, frustration, justified anger, hell, even traffic, right? Negative things in our life, we can prescribe a positive thing to, a positive reason for it being in our life. Frustration is not, while it feels negative in its delivery of its energy signature, is not a negative thing in my life because it serves such a purpose for me. Because I know that if I don't stop, just given my personality type, if I don't stop once I hit frustration and I keep running on self-will and just making it happen, that's where I often get into trouble, especially with groups and others, because as proven, and I'm just going to be honest, I have a lot of anger in me, right? Which gets hair triggered, which is problematic for me. And yeah, it's just part of the whole PTSD deal. It just is. And when I get triggered and threatened and feeling unsafe and start lashing out and start all that business, that's where problems arise for me, always. And why I'm usually asked to be excused from the group. Because I can't control that. I will become undone. So, along those lines, let's see, I gotta be quick here. Along those lines, so we are out of the basement, and I do not want to spend any more time there. I do not. That doesn't mean stuff doesn't come up. Ugh. And I don't want to dwell there. I don't want to dwell there. I want to move on. There's just so much that we are heading towards that's so good, right? And for me to revisit the basement and unearth more stuff and send triggers downstream is not what I want to be doing. That's not who I want to be. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to lift you up, not trigger you, right? So I need to be really careful about what I'm languaging in here. I need to be really careful about that, right? I need to be really careful that everything that we're doing in here is meeting that bar of happiness. And that bar of happiness cannot be met while you are fighting against something. It's like my boundary with faith-based communities, and when I was talking about, I don't know that I wouldn't be happier if I had a different understanding or thought pattern around them. What I ultimately came to around that situation is that happiness, where we're headed, joy, you can't be having a boundary that works against something, right? We're not anti-war. We have to be pro-peace. So if I have an anti-war stance against faith-based communities, that is rooted in complaint. Anything that has the kernel of complaint needs to be abandoned in order for me to hit that bar of happiness on my way to joy. It has to. Right? So I need to do more work around that. And I need to get to a place with faith-based communities where I'm working for something. A more loving world of, religions. Pick your salad. This one has nuts. Sorry. Right? So I can't be working against them. I have to be working with them and for something in the direction of happiness and joy. Oh, God. Slapping people is just so much easier. Right, Will Smith? Right. So we have to be careful. So there's one thing that came up this weekend that I just cannot get a read on in terms of whether I should be sharing it in here or not. Because it is rooted in the basement. And so I don't know what to do with that, because I don't want to give things in the basement oxygen. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. But at the same time, when pathology comes up that needs to be addressed, I don't know if I should be bringing that in here or not. I don't know if I need to think about that more. But anyhow, something happened this weekend on Saturday that sidelined me, that put me into an old behavior. And when sometimes, not always, but probably 50% of the time, and this is just old programming, old behavior, and the only reason, because I don't want to be that woman who's just like, look at my pain, right? But if there's real learning and understanding to be gleaned from me sharing this, then there's value there. And the value in me sharing this, I'm hoping, is that we understand pathology, that we understand the roots of behaviors tied to trauma that is beyond us, that often requires more like professional help. I don't want to skirt around that. If that is true for me, that is true for me. Because I want everyone in here to understand that maybe you're not alone. Maybe you don't understand your destructive behaviors. And how from trauma that gets ingrained. And this pattern for me has been ingrained in me for decades. Sometimes when I drink, I seek to pick fights, bar fights, and get beat up. That's what feels right to me. That's what I look for when I drink. I don't pick up guys to have sex with. I pick up guys who will be physically violent. So I need to take a look at that, because it keeps showing up, and if I don't address my, quite frankly, need to experience interpersonal guy on guy action like that, that could be problematic. That could end my life. That can often put me in situations that I just don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to feel that, the need to be hit like that. Because it's... Okay, we're just going to finish this up, then we're going to get back out of the basement. I'm so sorry for bringing us back down in here. But again, the pathology of our actions as tied to, and that we don't understand, trauma it lives in a universe beyond us often in ways we are not choosing. It's old programming and wiring that we have to root out. So that happened on Saturday. I have a video of me stopping in the middle of that chaos, of that storm that was brewing in my mind while I was just doing some driving and thought maybe I should show more truth, which is that when I drink, I drive around and see if I can find guys to beat me up. And I'm always surprised at how quickly I find myself here. Anyhow, so stuff like that's going to come up. Stuff like that is going to sideline us in ways we can not see coming, right? And that's just part of life that we live as adults in a post-traumatic world environment. I've been doing that kind of behavior since I was a teenager. That level of intimacy with men, I get what I need that I don't always get from sex. So I first of all just need to get honest about that so that we can look at it. But also have another category of crazy, quite frankly. You're like, another one? There's so many. Oh, stick around. That we can have another branch of ourselves that is rooted in trauma, that brings action into our lives in ways that we don't want or understand. That's what I'm talking about. And that stuff just pops up. So is that a red flag? Is that a negative thing? Is that where the learning is? This one is so deep in a way, in terms of feeding a need in me. That's why I don't drink, obviously. That's why I don't drink for the most part, because that happens. That happens. So, I'm not going to leave you there in the basement. We just took a little trip down there. Oh, still horrible. But let's not lose sight of where we're headed, right? Because I've seen the finish line. I have seen that joy, and I have done the equation to the point where it all leads to resonating with the planet and vibing with what is, which is joy. Like, that's it. That is the only, ending. That's where we're all headed in our chasing joy and happiness, right? It's a process of, like we were talking about before, going from viewing the world out there to seeing the world in here. And that all those negative things and red flags keep guiding us towards the work. That's their purpose. That's the purpose they serve, right? So it may look on the surface like a negative feeling, but it is not. a negative thing, nor are you a bad person for having negative feelings or negative experiences. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. You're not bad. You don't have bad thoughts. You have thoughts that just need to be processed and understood and excavated to understand the root of why they are there, to understand the little bit of fear that it's attached itself to and is living in you. Right? So that's where we're going. Anyhow, thank you for today. I hope that was not too traumatic. We have a lot of really great things that I'm very excited about. And, it just keeps getting better. It just keeps getting better. And so I'm really excited about where this whole channel is headed. And I thank you so much for being a part of it. If you can, please share my videos. I really want this to become a thing. I can't do it on my own. My poor friends on Facebook are so sick of hearing from me and wanting to. Anyways, if you can help me out in that way, I would greatly appreciate it. I hope that you're doing well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.